And thousands of nurses in England, Northern Ireland and Wales have walked out for the second time in under a week. The Royal College of Nursing has warned their action could last for 6 months unless an agreement can be reached. They're calling for a 5% above inflation pay rise, but the government says the demand is unaffordable. The Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, saying the government has prioritised the NHS instead.
On pay, we have an independent process and we have accepted that in full. And of course, that comes on top of the extra prioritisation of the NHS last year. But we also, alongside that, need to focus on patients. We need to focus on those pandemic waiting lists, get those waiting lists down. That's why we've invested the extra 6.6 billion over the next 2 years. So we prioritised the NHS and social care in the autumn statement at a time of difficulty for the economy because we recognise we need to get those things down.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister has been backing the findings of the independent pay review body as he faced questions over NHS strikes. Appearing before a liaison committee of MPs, Rishi Sunak defended the government's refusal to increase its offer to nurses and paramedics. He also said the best way to help the country was not to increase wages, but to bring down inflation.
I've acknowledged that it is difficult. It's difficult for everybody because inflation is where it is. And the best way to help them and to help everyone else in the country is for us to get a grip and reduce inflation as quickly as possible. And we need to make sure that the decisions that we make can bring about that outcome. Because if we get it wrong and we're still dealing with high inflation in a year's time, that's not going to help anybody. I don't want to see that. I want to see things get back to normal. And that's why having an independent pay process is an important part of us making those decisions.
And a coroner has ruled the 11 victims of the Shoreham air show disaster in 2015 were unlawfully killed. The 11 men died after their aircraft crashed on the A27 during an aerial display at the event in West Sussex. The coroner saying the plane crash was a result of poor judgment made by one pilot when undertaking a manoeuvre. The court also said the other victims played no part in causing their own deaths. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. You're with GB News. Now it's time for Headliners.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to Headliners. I am Simon Evans. Joining me tonight to rip apart the newspapers are two alpha carnivores of the comedy circuit, Carrie Marks and Lewis Schaefer. So let's take a quick chomp through the front pages before we begin. We start with the Daily Mail. How will they live with themselves if people die today? That is, of course, referring, because it's the Daily Mail, to the nurses and ambulance drivers rather than to the government. But the same question will appear on the left-wing press, I would imagine, as well. The different target. The Daily Telegraph also goes with unions have made a conscious choice to inflict harm on patients, says Barclay. That is Barclay, the health minister, rather than the bank. Guardian, on the other hand, say NHS bosses urge Prime Minister to intervene to avoid war of attrition on strikes. The Mirror has the nurses back as nurses and 99 crews. That's I think probably 999. My autocue has turned it into an ice cream, but I don't think that's considered to be quite such an emergency at this time of year. 999 crews fight to earn enough to pay their bills. PPE scandal peer Michelle Mone is on luxury break at a £6,000 a night hotel in the Alps, although you can get that look from TK Maxx for under a fiver. That's sickening. The Times have avoid taking risks, public told, as paramedics strike. Opening cold open to casualty episodes will be replayed up and down the country to remind people of dangerous practices they're not to pursue for the next few weeks. Daily Star, wrap yourself in cotton wool. That is essentially the same message. And hobnobs hold firm. That is another health and safety bit of advice there on the top left-hand corner. Those are your headlines. Let's take a look inside. So, of course, rather than take a look inside, I misspoke. We should take a look at the front pages in a little more detail. We start with you, Kerry, and you've got the Daily Telegraph, which has all the news, all on its own front pages.
All of the fun news, yes. GBNews staying with you as the country falls apart. Nurses, ambulances, ambulances aren't on strike, but ambulance drivers are, customs and immigration, postal, rail, university staff, driving instructors, everyone's on strike.
Driving instructors on strike?
The driving instructors, I brought this into the conversation the other day, but yes, driving instructors as well, but they're not getting much publicity, really.
No,
everyone's much more interested in. No, they're gig economy, aren't they? No one seems to care about the gig economy. The headline of the Daily Telegraph is that unions have made conscious choice to inflict harm on patients. Says Barclay, who, as you say, is the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care. And what's going on is the nurse union is everyone's accusing each other of murder now. So their union is accusing him of causing harm. He's accusing them of causing harm. So it's sort of just everyone throwing at each other.
Well, they are aware that somebody is going to die.
People will die.
Somebody will die.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think people die all the time in hospitals, whether the nurses are working or not.
So it's okay then?
Well, it is, in a way, it is okay because people die, and I think, and I've made this point on this program before, is that in Israel, that the hospitals went on strike and the death rate went down. So I'm not saying people will not be harmed.
You're saying the NHS is a bit like Twitter. It's probably 80% dead wood. You can cut it out
and still go on without it. I would say 90.
So if we can't get cured, we don't get ill. Is that the point?
Probably people would be forced to take better care of themselves, yes. And you think I'm kidding?
No, I think you should be health minister. I think obviously you've got this sorted out. Just get rid of the health service completely and we'll all be great.
People are ready for an entire carnivore diet at this point.
Yeah,
but
I think they would. I think me being health minister would probably do a lot of good.
I'm for it. The other stories on the front page of the Telegraph is that fishermen are getting 30,000 more tonnes of fish granted as a quota from the EU. That's according to them. No one trusts what fishermen are claiming.
What are you saying, Lewis?
Yeah, is that a 30,000 a year?
A year, yes.
Extra tons a year.
Well, it wouldn't be a day. Maybe it is.
When they're being asked to pick up the asylum seekers that are flowing, then it'll be a good day for British shipping.
Fishermen and RNLI both picking up record catches this year,
In the channel.
A growing threat from Iran.
Asylum seekers, we've got Iran is becoming a major...
Well, the whole world, Russia and China and Iran, and, of course, we're looking at whole new threats going on. Boris Becker is saying that...
Iran, no, for a moment, because...
Do you want to say that?
Just is saying, the PM is saying that... They pose a threat with Russian weapons, is that right?
I've not followed through that story because it's written in very small.
It is written in very small print, but I think that is the nature of it. It's interesting, Iran is getting a lot of stick at the moment, certainly from the show business profession, the entertainment, our colleagues on the more...
Yes, Omar Jalili.
In particular, who, to be fair, has skin in that game. But he has relentlessly sort of brought attention to this thing. I can't remember Iran attracting quite so much criticism from, the wokerati commentariat, whatever you want to call it, the sort of people who make it their business to get involved in issues of this kind. Normally, they focus their attention on things that go on within the United Kingdom, which is a fairly safe target. And we always say, well, it might not be great, but it's better than it is in Iran. Well, now they're actually I feel quite positive about it. I don't know, what do you think?
Well, it's weird because it says the PM warns of growing threat posed by Iran. The fact is it's been growing for decades. For 50 years or 40 years.
I don't think that's the threat the left wing are really getting into at the moment. They're much more interested in women's rights going on there rather than the EU and what threat it's posing to the West.
I suppose there is the potential for a ruthless regime like the one Iran labours under to try and distract from their appalling human rights record within their own borders by launching a couple of missiles.
It could happen, yes.
Could happen.
Yes.
And for the one that you were going to go on to, sorry, Boris Becker.
I was just passing by that one from the front page that Boris Becker says he had a death threat whilst he was in prison, which I thought that's what happens in prison. Isn't that what prison is? You get death threats, don't you? And that's
not a happy place.
I thought that was the least of it.
He has to find his gang in the exercise yard.
Yeah, you thought so, yeah, totally, yeah. Find your group.
I don't know how many
and hang out with them.
There were in Parkhurst, but I'm sure he found a couple to hang out with. Moving on to The Guardian, Lewis, you have their front page, which is largely around the same stories.
Yeah, but I mean, it's from The Guardian's point of view, which is saying that, whereas the other papers are saying, hey, people are going to die, and that's the nurses' problem.
Yeah.
The Guardian is saying that it's the PM's job to intervene to stop the strikes, this rolling strikes that have been happening. continually.
I have to say, I like their front page picture more, with the sort of green and common style women wearing antlers and see-through plastic bags. I don't know, it just feels a little bit more makeshift.
With them asking people to honk as they pass if they agree. I'm not sure whether honking really does much, actually, but, I mean, clapping for the NHS didn't put their wages up, so...
I love getting a good honk.
Do you like getting a good honk, do you? Does it for you?
I'm dead, son.
Yeah.
Or it could be a way to bring up the stress, which then makes people sicker, and then more healthcare. But I mean, I'm looking at this picture, and I want to say this in a totally the nicest way, is that we've got a major health crisis, and it looks like the NHS staff, I've been in some of the hospitals there, and they're lovely, lovely people at King's College Hospital, but they look like they need some intervention of
Now you're going to lose them now.
You've got a long way over to say the word fat, haven't you?
I didn't say that.
I know. You've got a long way around it. You've got a massive circle.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan's favourite soap opera is Coronation Street.
I don't believe that for a second.
I think that's particularly... Now, let's take a look at the Daily Mirror very quickly. They've got this story about Michelle Mone, who is pictured there looking like a sort of Primark Kate Moss. I mean, she's not Primark, is she? She's worth millions.
She's worth millions now, yeah. She got some backhander, which is nicer than it sounds.
Dress like you're worth millions these days. It's almost impossible.
Well, yes, because the millionaires dress down, don't they? So it's made it very confusing. Yeah, she hooked up PPE firms, of course, and a contract's worth more than 200 million. Got a load of money now in an offshore account, and she's offshore herself, out on her mountain of money on a mountain. To use an expression, taking the piece of our country as she's on a skiing holiday.
This has split the room in terms of she's a member of the House of Lords. She's a duchess or something, obviously, created as such because she was supposed to be an exemplary a creator of wealth and opportunity and industry in Glasgow, I think. And then it turns out she's a villain. And some people say this is why you shouldn't reform the House of Lords. It was fine when it was just a bunch of old aristocrats in Ireland who would never do something like this. I think there's some truth to that.
That they rather wallow in their misery.
Go
and their
back
poverty.
to inbreds and bishops and you'll find... Anyway, finally we look at the Daily Star. Wrap yourself in cotton wool. I guess that is pretty much the advice, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's, something that's almost good advice. It's basically saying to the residents of this country, the citizens of this country, take care of yourselves. Yeah. And we can tell people do not take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very true.
It's Will Quince, isn't it, the health minister, who's saying don't do anything, no dangerous sports tomorrow. Yeah. Don't take any risks. No base jumping.
Even in your own home, you've always got a hand and 2 feet.
It's a good day for badminton.
Yeah.
It's just, when you were small and your mum said to you, if you climb on that wall and fall off and break your leg, don't come running to me. This is now the country telling us the same thing.
But wasn't this the same advice that the nurses gave during the corona? Yeah. And look at how that panned out. It did not pan out well.
Do you think just before we go to the break, very quickly, yes or no, do you think the TikTok dancing nurses helped their cause, or has just created a slight element of doubt that perhaps they aren't quite as hard done by as...
OK, I'll answer first. The answer to the question is no, because it showed empty hospitals.
Good.
That they had plenty of time to do the dancing.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. No, I think it showed that personally, I think it showed they're human and they like to have a bit of fun in their spare time. I thought the dancing looked quite tired, actually. So.
Interesting.
I thought they made their point.
Very well done. A little break now while we digest those morsels. But join us for part 2, where the FBI has been caught red-handed. You'd never want to play a board game with Elon Musk as he changes the rules with every throw of the dice. And it seems that the only thing worse than a male Man City fan is a female Man City fan. See you in a couple of minutes.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Headliners with me, Simon Evans. And I am joined by Lewis Schaefer and Kerry Marks. So, we have Lewis to kick us off with this quarter with a story from the Mail Online. And it's very online, in fact, the Twitter files. For a change, it seems that the walls are closing in on the FBI, rather than Donald Trump.
Well, we'll see what's going to happen, really. This reminds me back in the day with the Nixonian times, when the state was at war with their own people.
Yeah.
And so the FBI has come out because of Elon Musk, who is a god to me. He's a god. He came out and he said that they found out looking at files at Twitter after he bought it, that Twitter was given $3.5 million by the FBI
as a sort of slush fund,
as a reward for investigating American citizens.
Was it given in vouchers, like FBI vouchers or something?
I think it was just
spend
cash.
At your local FBI store.
And how did nobody notice this? That they can just ship 3.5 million? America is such a rich country. It's completely.
But it was just nakedly like a bribe. It was essentially like so nearly a bribe.
It was like saying, we know we're doing something wrong,
yeah,
but if you take this money, we won't bother you.
This will help to furnish the extra office that we've asked you to open.
But you're going to need it because Twitter is losing was losing so much money. The amazing part of the story to me is that the FBI agent in San Francisco was named Elvis Chan.
Elvis
Chan.
That sounds fake, doesn't it? That sounds like a name you'd make up for an agent, doesn't it?
It's like Mr., doesn't it? Or so is it like a sort of? Is it like a?
I assume it's a Chinese guy.
Elvis, old mate. It's like that.
Yeah. Well, I assume it's a Chinese guy whose name. He's literally a Chinese Elvis.
Well, there was a point
loads of them.
not long ago where it was the data was extrapolated to demonstrate that by the end of the 21st century there would be more Chinese Elvis impersonators. Do you remember that? There was such a growing trend.
There's a point where every Chinese person will be an Elvis impersonator.
Yes. But then suddenly broke that. What do you think?
And you won't be able to say they all look like Elvis because that would be offensive.
You don't twit much, do you?
I don't tweet much. I go through phases where I do. I think it's from what it started out as being, and as all social media is going, it's become more and more of a cesspit. I think it's full of awful things.
Now that Musk has brought all the old band.
I'm two minds to see where. It's too early to say right now.
Yeah.
You know, we'll come to Musk in a moment, in fact, because we've got a story on him. But he's
too early to say.
What I find funny about this is just how bad intelligence agencies are at covering their tracks.
Yeah.
You know, that they got found out so easily, and the money was paid as a thank you. Which is not a deep disguise, is it? Sort of little thank you notes and so on.
I mean, I'm obviously naive, but I'm a little bit surprised that Twitter didn't destroy these records as well before they handed over all the files to.
Well, it seems silly.
I guess that's legal, but right. You know.
But of course, this has also come whilst the Congressional Committee has been recommending 4 charges on Trump. Who I'm no Trump fan, but he said that the election was faked and so on. And this now looks looks like there was some
it may not
messing around that shouldn't have been happening.
But certainly shenanigans.
Yeah, certainly shenanigans, yeah.
And I do... Oh, no, he's malarkey, isn't it? I do think it's very interesting now that both main parties in America, the Democrats and the Republicans, are both... They've changed tack, and there is definitely a sense that they are trying not to argue on their policies or on programme of legislation that would change things. They are trying to present the other party as being so thoroughly corrupt as beyond redemption. You see what I mean? There's a sense that the war is being fought at that level rather than, we think it would be better to bring up interest rates a little bit and whatever.
Yeah, I think because I'm not saying. I'm telling you what side that I think. I think the Democrats have gone off the deep end, really.
Yeah.
And there's so much buried information about it. Maybe that's why it's come out because of that.
Staying with Twitter news now, Kerry. Wednesday's Metro, though I suspect, based on that little conversation I have, a vague sense this might as well be about hieroglyphics as far as you're concerned, but...
I mean, I know roughly what's going on. I'm not totally uninformed, you know, I'm not prehistoric. This is because Elon Musk is restricting voting on the policy decisions to Twitter Blue subscribers. So what happened was he asked the question of whether he should be running Twitter.
Yeah.
And he said he would go... He actually said Vox Populi, Vox Dei. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm sure you know
Vox Populi, Vox Dei, yeah.
That's exactly what I said. That's what you heard, wasn't it? That's what I said.
That's what he heard, I said.
Why did you just correct me as saying exactly what I just said? It's weird. Which means the voice of people is the voice of God. But what he meant is when it suits me, it's the voice of God. Because the vote went against him. And then someone tweeted, Blue subscribers should be the only ones that can vote in policy-related polls, and Musk said, good point, Twitter will make that change. It was probably Musk who tweeted that to himself anyway.
Because it's reactionary politics, right? It's like in the good old days, you had to be a landowner to get a vote in an election.
Those are the good old days, were they? Those are the days you missed.
Fathers,
yes.
when the country worked.
Bit of plural voting, bring it back.
Oh, I'm not talking about Britain, I'm talking about America, but...
It was the same thing here.
We had that.
But to be a landowner in America was part of democracy. It was a problem.
Well, they had stake in the game, and I think by you saying it, you know, he changes the rules when it suits him.
Which he is.
Yeah, he is. But first of all, he didn't change the rules. It wasn't a rule that he came into.
It was a rule. He said that phrase.
But that didn't make,
you know,
he did. He is squirming out of that. But by and large, I think.
And now he's saying it's got to be blue check marker, and then next he'll say only people who agree with me are allowed to vote.
Well, he can do whatever he wants to do. He doesn't have to say.
He has changed the rules, but I don't think it's completely unacceptable that he's doing so. I do think. I mean,
there you go. He agrees with me.
It's true that
he's around and he's on ice a lot of the time, but he has actually he has embraced a new culture of how a social media platform might be run.
Yeah.
And he is actually opening it up vastly more. I mean, by comparison with this dirty, dark, these smoke-filled... They weren't even smoke-filled, these vegan... goo-filled rooms that were...
Goo-filled?
Yeah, I don't know what vegans... Some sort of goo. There's no...
You're really out of touch with vegans, aren't you?
Maybe with the smoke coming off of a stir-fry. But they had no...
Those healthy
there's
goo
no
eaters.
tobacco, there's no whiskey. There's just this kind of aroma of vaguely sour breath.
Yeah.
And they were deciding the fate of accounts, and they were deciding to suppress valid news stories and so on. Musk is at least opening it up, and yes,
maybe he is, or maybe he's also suppressing things in his favour. I think it's too early to say, but it's true that bots did affect this vote.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, bots are people too, so
But you know what? I think making people pay. I think $8 a month or whatever it is. I haven't got a blue tick. I never had one before. If I had one, I would probably have gone, okay, I'll carry on, and pay it, whatever. But I always managed without one. But I do think a small subscription charge makes a lot of sense because it just eliminates complete time wasters and idiots, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I would say like $8 a year even would be enough to eliminate bots, wouldn't it?
Yes, you would think so.
It's like nobody's going to create a million... nonsense accounts just to...
It would be enough.
Like you said, they've got a horse in the race.
Yeah. So, Lewis, The Express now, and staying with crimes against humanity, we have the strikingly named Secretary of Evil.
Yeah.
Who is, I would imagine, surely going to be the last Nazi war criminal to be prosecuted.
Well, you don't know. People are living longer and longer. I mean, this is, I don't know. We'll try to make this funnier if you can. It's basically a woman who was 97, and she was put on trial. And she was put on trial because she was the secretary at the concentration camp where 10,000 Jews and other people were killed.
Was she to a named, one of the well-known individuals, like like Borg?
No, we're scraping the barrel now.
Yeah, this is.
But this is quite significant, and you're right. It's probably the last of these cases.
97.
And,
but they said that 20 years ago too, when they were 77.
Yeah, but they didn't mean it.
Yeah.
Now they mean it.
Goebbels' secretary. That was quite recent. That was only about 4 or 5 years ago. She came in. I don't know whether she was considered to be a secretary of evil. She might have been like I don't know, second tier.
I've never really trusted typists. It's that nonchalant swish. I don't care. Whatever.
But you know what I found shocking is that she was sentenced to a 2-year suspended sentence.
Right.
So she wasn't being sent to prison, but I still thought it was a bit harsh.
Yeah.
No. Well, but you got to be careful.
She doesn't kill any Jews for 2 years. She's not going into prison.
Well, she might come back.
That's a reasonable deal.
The trick is once you've prosecuted, you've got to do something, haven't you? I mean, you can't just kind of go anyway. It's over, I mean, it's
they should
not
punish
only
her.
serious crime, it's arguably the most serious crime ever committed.
Yeah,
in the history of
10,000 people.
Yes, but loads of people.
So much time has passed that it's a bit like one of those risk analysis matrices, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like how serious is the risk, and then how likely is it to happen? You know what I mean?
There's a message to the future saying if you get involved in any level, it can come back on you. But at the same time.
The future.
Sure, but at the same time, lots of Nazis got away with it, and Operation Paperclip, of course, had loads of Nazis working for the Americans, the scientists. Which the basic message was, if you're going to commit mass murder, then get an education and
go to America.
Be needed.
As ever.
Yeah.
We have a similar thing with Jimmy Savile. They did it all, didn't they? And then end this little sort of minor groping DJs.
You want to hear something funny? Yeah. My mother, when Richard Nixon died at the age of 84 years old, she said, God got him at the end. I said, he was 84. He was 84.
Yeah, that proves God exists, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
so this
no one's got away with it so far.
You see, God is punishing them.
It is extraordinary, the confabulation we're capable of. Anyway, Kerry, from the Express to Wednesday's Guardian with a single bounce, so this will take a moment to reorientate.
Taliban ban Afghan women from university education. So the Taliban are Talibaning women. They're Talibaning is what they do.
The Base Republic of Afghanistan.
People the women are having to dress more conservatively now, and they've been knocked out of education, which...
I like that word, conservatively, as if they were wearing navy blue and carrying stiff...
Well, I don't think it's been made a law at the moment, clothing, but I think everyone, from the pictures we've been seeing, women know that's coming.
Yeah.
So it's gradual restrictions and no more education.
Yeah.
It's odd because when we talk about countries like Afghanistan and Iran and so on, there's decades in which women get certain levels of rights and then they get taken away again. It's a constant bounce backwards and forwards. And
the funny thing, Iran, which we've talked about earlier, which is now coming down on its women like a ton of bricks, and it's horrific. But we've all seen photographs from the 1950s and 60s before the coup. I mean, and obviously, America had a hand in that, where women were not only educated, they were extremely fashionable, they were very, very self-assertive and so on, weren't they? Doesn't seem to have ever been the case in Afghanistan, as far as I can tell. There isn't.
Well, I think there are a few years there. Can I, women being educated, can I say a few good words about the Taliban? Or is that...
Yeah, good, a different angle.
Go ahead.
I've been told not to.
I want to know why the women can't identify as men over there. That would get them around it, wouldn't it?
That's popular in Iran as well.
Well, yeah.
Rather that they were trans than that they were gay. But there is.
Can you then get educated?
There is definitely. We saw those clips. Remember those clips when the British and the American troops sent over a sort of arts education program, as well as their army, and obviously like food and water and stuff. They had liberal arts graduates explaining Duchamp's. The fountain, this is art, that he signed and turned the urinal upside down and said this is and this was being explained to these passionate, sitting there, these mullahs. It's absurd, the idea that they were going to change thousands of years of cultural heft.
Yeah.
The arrogance of the West to think we'll just drop in a few kind of open university courses.
Certainly.
They'll
but there is another side to it, though, is that whilst people complain a lot about colonialism, they see it as a uniform thing. Very often what it is administration that runs for a few decades of a place.
Yeah.
And during that time, minorities and women very often benefit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they get educated, they have choices.
You
and
could argue that, I don't know the facts, and somebody might correct me, but India certainly continued to run along the British colonial lines for arguably still to some extent does.
Not saying there weren't lots of bad sides.
Afghanistan was never responded. It never, fell into line. I think the geography of the place just, resists. Anyway, we're at the halfway point, but join us for 2 minutes for further racist aliens, and how much money you'd like to spend to talk to a pregnant transgender man. That'll all be coming up after the next break. See you in a minute.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel. Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
And welcome back to Headliners. Let's take a look at Wednesday's Mirror, Kerry. And Liverpool's Aladdin pantomime has got a new catchphrase. Where's my diversity, equity and inclusion quota?
Yep.
It's behind you.
This is the Aladdin pantomime in Liverpool that's been accused of having too many Scousers in it. Oh, no, that's not the story. It's got a white cast and it's used offensive language, branded shameful amid diversity, controversy. I don't know how anything can be not scandalous anymore. And also, how did they manage to put together a white cast and not know it was going to get that reaction in a modern world? It's a profoundly dastardly plan.
Aladdin is the most famous thief, isn't he, in pantomime? Right?
Yes.
So to have cast a man of Middle Eastern extraction might have been considered problematic as well. I don't know.
They've also got in trouble with the line saying, "Come on down to our." I don't know whether I can even say the word because it causes so much offence. Oriental town.
Oriental.
Yes, am I allowed to say that anymore? I think there's alarms to go off in the studio, and yes, we don't say Oriental anymore. And also, they've been accused of not having enough people from the global majority. I always find this global majority term a really odd one. I feel it's kind of counterproductive.
Yeah.
Because it makes it sound like...
that we're the minority and they should be nicer to us.
We are. So if they're coming for us, they're going to win. And,
Some in-group preference is called for at this point.
Yeah, totally.
Orient just means Eastern, doesn't it? As in Orient and Occident. They used to have Leighton Orient. Is that that's East London?
Now, but we do different types of Asian now, don't we? Do Eastern Asian and so on, rather than say Oriental.
When they say Asian, they always mean East Asian, whereas we sometimes include the subcontinental, don't we?
Yes, we do, yeah.
Always.
Tricky.
But we are talking about this actual... The Aladdin happens in Jordan, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which is largely where people, they're not considered white, but are quite white-skinned anyway.
Oh, right.
So whether you're talking about people of colour here, I don't know whether that's included or not. But,
That's like when they
but even then, they're often dressed to look Eastern Asian.
Yeah.
You know, Eastern Asian, quite offensive eye shapes and makeup.
Isn't there a play on Broadway right now where Tony Blair is being played by a black man?
Well, there's definitely one in London where a man called William F. Buckley is being played by a black man. He is an American chat show. Well, he used to host like discussion, but and Gore Vidal is played by a white. It's about them two being
How did I get Tony Blair? I knew it
David
was something.
Hare, I think his name is, because our colleague Simon Fenshaw was saying it was fantastic, and you very quickly forget. We should have a team outing. Anyway, staying with race-baiting entertainment. News in the Mail, Lewis, about woke critic is angry that non-blue actors have been cast in Avatar.
Yeah, well, this is sort of the same story as the other story, which is who can play parts.
Yeah.
And like in the last story, there's a woman complaining that they didn't hire authentic actors.
Yeah.
Like a person of color is an authentic actor. No, an actor is an actor, should be able to play anything.
Okay, I'll play devil's advocate here. I haven't, nobody's seen Avatar 2 yet, but I've seen the clips, I've seen the stills.
Yeah.
They are clearly sort of based on Native Americans. They paddle down rivers in canoes, they have their hair in braids, they're in touch with the land.
They've got native actors in this.
They can see all the colours of the wind. You know, they are obviously basically kind of alien Pocahontas. So perhaps they could have, I don't know.
They are using native and Maori. We say Maori, but actually the correct pronunciation I'm told is Māori. I don't feel quite. Yeah, when I was in New Zealand, I was told that. I didn't know that was correct. But people should be complaining about the movie because it's rubbish. You know, it's CGI rubbish rather than going blue in the face, complaining about people being too blue in the face. What it is that we shouldn't really have real people playing fictional characters.
Well,
we're taking away work from fictional people.
But they create a create a template. They're not visibly.
I wasn't really meaning we shouldn't have real people play fictional characters.
They won't have them.
I listened to that.
They're all coming out of... you mean any fictional character?
Because we're taking work from fictional people. It wasn't a great joke, but it deserved some kind of recognition.
I was thinking,
humour happening
why
there.
are people laughing?
Yeah, I know. I'm glad you were here.
Yeah.
We're a team.
Simon's too busy talking. Because he loves the sound of his own voice.
We're going to get CGI movies where there are people who have been created out of nothing. I mean, we're already seeing.
They're taking our jobs. The fictional CGI people and AI people are taking our work. I'm not even here.
You're not.
This isn't me. Doesn't feel like me.
They're looking for blue people. They could probably get people with very bad cases of varicose veins.
Is that something that can't ever reside?
That's blue. That's another joke. That was a joke.
That was a joke.
What
do people want? It's 11 o'clock at night.
Wednesday's Guardian. Let's hope for an elevation here. The same director, James Cameron, has categorically proved something I don't think I'd ever heard anyone dispute in the first place.
It's nice that he's gone out of the way to prove something that no one cared about.
No.
But and it looks like he went out of his way. The headline says James Cameron proves Jack couldn't have survived the Titanic sinking. Now, I've not actually seen the film.
He is actually saying Jack the character, not Jack as in slang for nothing.
Right. I assume people have complained and saying that wouldn't have happened. He says, we took two stunt people who were the same body mass of Kate and Leo. We put sensors all over them and inside them, which I think is more of the story, really, of how you put sensors inside someone. Why didn't you just stop there? Just say, the news story is we're putting sensors inside actors for no reason. And they played it out, and they found out that it would have happened or that one of them would have had to die.
This is like the 21st century equivalent of a ducking stool, isn't it? To see, would the Leo character have sunk? Oh, he's a witch.
Well, what's shocking about this story to me is that they just implied that the guy automatically had to die, and I don't think that should be the case anymore. Why should the man have
thrown
to die?
Winslet off? You mean?
Oh, you would like her to die?
I mean, she probably is more buoyant than he was at the time.
Yeah, change stereotypes. Why not?
Not just
kill more women.
No, not kill more women.
That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying equality. Why should the man be the victim? Why should the man have to die?
Because for every man who dies, a woman should die.
You've taken the red pill.
I've taken the red pill.
Men are totally replaceable. Always have been.
No, we have, but why should we?
Also, she was upper class. He was
willingly?
he was a, what do you call it, like a...
I see. Yeah. I see where it's coming from now. I just think the people who got concerned about this in the first place should get a life, and I've tested that by putting sensors inside and outside an actor who was playing you, and it turned out that you should get a life.
I have to say, I found it one of the most profoundly unmoving finales. The whole film was extraordinary. Anyway, Lewis, Wednesday's mail, and as the NHS grinds to a halt altogether over pay disputes, some will see this as a bit of an optional extra, I suspect.
Well, it's an interesting story because the NHS is spending £100,000 on a scheme that teaches staff how to be inclusive to pregnant transgender men, which is another word for pregnant transgender men is women.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it even made the Daily Mail because it's only £100,000. Which is like nothing. Yeah. And the truth is that these are still women who are pregnant.
Yeah.
They just think that they're... I'm going to get into trouble by saying this.
I'm not going to spend £100,000 educating you. You better get your story straight. Otherwise, the people are going to think, well, maybe this is money well spent, because you can imagine somebody coming in who's pregnant, identifies as a man, and they encounter your kind of level of ignorance.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Shocking.
but they're not going to. They're not going to. Because I would smack them around and say, come...
You would do what?
I would smack them around and say, come to your senses. Come on, man. Come on, sir, come to your senses.
I think you say 100,000 isn't a lot, but that's quite a lot to spend on changing a few words at a time where there's strikes going on and so on.
I mean, booklet, couldn't it? Could have really been a booklet.
Well, it could have just said, look, if you're a man who identifies as a woman, just take the word woman as meaning you in this case. Because, I mean, personally, I get it to some extent. I think we should just get rid of all words.
Yeah.
You know, in case just miming doesn't offend people very much, does it? And also, you know, with the NHS, we're seeing that there's a lot of money. You get 100,000 for a job as trainee director of lived experience, and there's heads of diversity and so on. No, these are real.
Lived experience.
Head of lived experience. Lived experience is a new term that means experience, but they love an extra word.
And that person makes 100,000, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to pay 100,000 for an entire program with all the paperwork and all the...
Well, that's the thing. It's a lot of paperwork, and it's
But so medicine, it's not that much money.
No, it's not that much money. You're right. I agree with you in terms of like an NHS budget kind of.
Yeah.
Medicine shouldn't be about protecting feelings. If you want to protect my feelings, tell me I'm going to be okay. You can cure me. That's what I want to hear from a doctor. I don't want to hear any more. You don't want to hear you change cancer to fluffy wuffy or anything else. But
you're pregnant.
Yeah.
You don't need to be cured. That isn't the term people use.
No, but I'm saying what we expect from the medical profession. Okay, you're pregnant, is to deliver the baby and say it's going to be okay.
That is true.
Can I say a nice word for this? I didn't mean to say that these... I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
You do.
And they don't. Wednesday's Telegraph taking us to the break. And this describes how early man used to talk using his fifth limb.
The secret of how humans gain the ability to speak may have been discovered by scientists, may have been. Why don't they just come back when they have discovered it and they're absolutely sure? Why are they wasting our time? We're really busy on this programme. Apparently, because we didn't have a fifth limb, they now think that the mouth was used as a fifth limb. I don't know what your fifth limb thinks of this.
It's not a fifth limb. It's not a limb, is it? It's a whole mouth.
Yes, but used as a limb to hold food and so on. So,
not a limb.
you know,
No.
like, can I kiss your fifth limb? I'm a bit busy bidding on my limb stick. It's a very odd idea, and it came from looking at... let me just check I'm right here, because it was... look, gorillas and chimpanzees, they come onto the ground, so they use the ground to help hold things, whereas they've been studying orangutans, and they find they live in the trees, so they use their mouths to hold stuff.
So a bit more limb-like, aren't they?
Right, and if we hadn't... used our mouths in that way, we might have grown an extra limb.
I'm doing the...
Our mouths are literally cost us an arm and a leg, basically.
Is it connecting with you, Lewis? My chimpy.
I don't think it's going to be used in the adverts for the programme.
Yeah.
Or maybe it will.
I agree with Carrie here, because it's totally ridiculous. It's like no information. It's just a guess that the person that was using their lips. But I thought it was interesting is how we developed the ability to use our feet and to walk upright by being in the trees. And we were grabbing for things, which forced us to extend ourselves.
Yeah, it's possible. There's all sorts of interlocking theories. I like one that comedian Rob Newman discussed on his Radio 4 comedy programme, very funny. He says that we began with singing, that our initial utterances would have been rhythmic and tonal, and that diction would have come much, much later. That's not his own theory, but he comes up with... I like that idea. And I think that's why we love... what's his name? The actor... Gordon's alive! What's his name? You know,
Brian Blessed.
Brian Blessed.
Oh, I see, right.
Yeah, because he sings, doesn't he? He doesn't just speak,
yes.
He sings. It'd be lovely if everyone spoke to each other all the time in a sort of voiced manner. I think it would elevate the spirits.
I've lived in this country too long that I knew that was Brian Blessed. That is very... Did you know it was blind press?
I didn't realise at first, no.
We're going to take a break now. I think you get to see a picture of a chimp using its fifth limb. But after that break, we have the final bit where Santa goes green, tampons go tech, and the worst possible place to find this bomb. Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
I know where that was found. That is horrific.
That's massive.
Anyway, we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
And friends and
Welcome back to the final part of Headliners. We're just discussing Lewis's children, Carnegie and Columbus. That is really classy names. I feel like bad for giving mine just very conventional kind of potato names now. But anyway.
You call them potato?
Well, Edward, we got an Edward. Lewis, you kick off our Quattro Ultimo and a killjoy suggestion in Wednesday's Metro that we should no longer ruin Christmas for those children on the naughty list with a stocking full of traditional coal. This is a shame.
This is interesting. It's a mix. It's a mix of. They have to put climate change into everything that they do nowadays, and they want to phrase out putting coal for naughty kids, says a paediatrician from the British medical journals. She says that putting coal in saying you're going to put coal in a bad child's stocking sends a bad message about climate change. But I think that coal is not a punishment nowadays, now that, you know, we're in a heating crisis.
Yeah.
And the kids...
Depends if you get to use it in your own private fire or whether you're supposed to contribute it back to the family fire, I guess.
Or any fire. And fire in the house, it's going to be used for heat.
Fire is fire is magical. Coal itself, I still find something a little bit special about coal. My wife doesn't like the smell of it, so we have to burn wood. I think it's quite amazing, magical stuff. It's a lot better than a lot of crap you get in your stocking.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because coal, they always talk about fossil fuels. Yeah. There's no such thing as fossil fuels. It's not the fuels. These coal comes from they come from Saturn, and they come in from the what do you call that? A meteor.
Oh, a meteor.
Which did a flyby and dumped tons of oil and. Then
is there no dinosaur in it?
There is a dinosaur, but I don't think they've got a minimal.
Can I just make clear though? She's not actually saying don't give children coal. No one's giving children coal. People haven't given children coal for a long time, you know, back early in the last century somewhere.
My kids mainly get
Your
coal.
kids don't get coal. Don't pretend they do. She's saying don't pretend. She's saying don't pretend to give children coal, and she's saying it would be good, for goodness sake, if coal was left in the ground, she wrote. It is. Coal is left. We're not giving children coal. People don't do
say
this.
that. What are you questioning?
No, she's saying this.
No, but I didn't say. Can we go back a step? I didn't say that they put in coal, that they were promised coal.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying that what she's saying is don't threaten them with coal because of the environment. That's like saying you shouldn't joke about babies being delivered by storks because it would be bad for their backs. It's like they're not delivering babies.
Kerry, Wednesday's Mail, and
I'm still angry with that one.
We won't find much to relate to here either.
Your
parents can make you a perfectionist, is that right?
Can make you a harmful perfectionist, and for women it's about their fathers. So with women it's the father makes them a perfectionist. With men it's the mother makes them a perfectionist. So they say. It's a very odd study, this. It says self-oriented. Are we allowed to say oriented, or is it Eastern Asianted? Yeah. Perfectionism is where a person demands perfection of themselves. Other oriented, they demand perfection from someone else. And then socially prescribed perfectionism is where they believe that others require perfection of them. This is all done it's a survey. Yeah. We've really left the news way behind at this point.
It's the difference between guilt and shame or something, isn't it? Is that the idea that some things are about how you feel about something yourself, and other things are about
that somebody...
if you can feel the sort of gaze of some...
I think what I get from reading it is the researcher really could have done with a parent who beat him. I'm not for that, but I think in this one case it might have been a good thing.
This is the problem, is they asked the people, are you a perfectionist?
Yeah.
And if they said yes, they assume that they're a perfectionist because they've been asked, are you a perfectionist?
You know, there's a famous passage. You probably heard it, Kerry. You probably recite it, or it was one of those early Derren Brown type things where there's a cold reading, like paragraph, which if you write this, anyone who finds it will go, oh my God, that's me. That is so me.
Oh, loads of experiments like that. We're astrology. We're a class who are all given exactly the same reading.
Yes.
And everyone says, wow, you've got me down.
Totally got me. And one of those things is you're a bit of a perfectionist. You're too much, and you're very hard on yourself. Yeah.
Yes.
Staying with the Mail, Lewis, am I the only one thinking if only Elvis had one of these,
well,
he might still be with us?
You know what it is? We like to think we're in the future. I mean, not in England. I mean, in America. But a company in America came up with a bathroom of the future, which is an Alexa, which is that computer thing, which I don't know how to use. Yeah. Enabled toilet that plays music and mood lighting while you go, right?
Yeah.
And it's just been released by Kohler, which is the big company there. And it's linked. It's got a bidet which flushes water up. It's got an air dryer which dries the water up.
Oh, I'm into it now. I didn't like the idea of it.
Yeah. And the seats are heated. It's got UV light to kill the poo, and it's $11,500.
I don't mind having like a toilet and bidet all in one.
Yeah.
I've never used a bidet. I don't really love it. I can understand, but I don't like the idea of Alexa because Alexa is always listening, isn't it? That's the thing about Alexa. It's like you just have to go Alexa, and she's like, "Yeah, what? Sorry, yeah, sorry, I was miles away. Where are you?"
It's
you were like,
it's like when we go with the microphone into the bathroom, and you're thinking, "Are they listening to this?" Yeah. But here's the news. The news is Japan has had this for like 30
Yeah, of course
40
they have.
years.
I remember these coming out a long time ago when you went in the hotels in Japan. And this is just a waste of waste, isn't it, really? And it's talking toilets. You only wanted a toilet that you can do a Zoom call from. But what I'd really like is that in this modern age where we're sending people into space and going to the deepest depths of the ocean and so on, is a toilet seat that doesn't occasionally just go...
Oh, yeah.
Do you know why is that? Why do we still, in this age, still have toilet seats where...
lopsided buttons.
It's not me. I know it's not me.
Speak to Lewis about your diet. High-tech tampons. More personal hygiene stories. High-tech tampon.
This is the high-tech tampon that could alert you to early signs of disease. It is, yes, like the canary in the... device that will launch in Britain next year records health data by measuring biomarkers in the blood. So now men are the ones who are missing out by not wearing tampons, of course. It's going to be... there's some government funding going for it. It looks like a miniature folding umbrella. I've just gone off the idea of having one now.
So
I don't need a miniature umbrella.
Does it have a chip in it, or do you have to pop the tampon in like some sort of measuring device afterwards? Is it actually measuring you while it's...
I believe so, yeah. It's a new invention that combines high-tech biosensors with a sophisticated app, could spell the end to embarrassment of periods and pave the way for a new era of healthcare diagnosis. Is this the advert? Are we actually doing an advert for it right now?
I think we are.
I think so. But that's what it says. And it also does Zoom calls.
And you get Legionnaire's disease too.
Yeah.
And you can wear white trousers and go rollerblading. We've been here. Let's finish off with this this extraordinary story of the who's got this? You got this.
This is yours.
Yeah. So basically, we've had this is now the third story. We've had the bathroom, we've had the tampons, and now we have a guy, a pensioner, shows up in the A&E in France with a World War II bomb up his bum.
Can we see a picture of it again? I remember you had a picture for the break. Let's see if we can find that picture again.
Yeah.
You keep talking.
And the hospital, you know, the funny thing, the hospital in southern France was temporarily evacuated.
There it is.
But meanwhile, his bum was temporarily evacuated.
Yeah.
It's like the size of a football glass.
5 or 6 centimetres in diameter and by 20 long.
That is insane.
So it's not a little tiny thing. If he had played musical chairs once in his life, everyone would have blown up. You know, he's been carrying this one around since.
No, he has not. He hasn't.
He has. It's from World War I.
I think he's put it in.
What do you think? You think he sat on it at some point?
Oh no, that could never happen.
It's massive.
They could never happen. Somebody put something in their bum like that.
He was bent over as the bomb was landing, and it's been there ever since.
Some kind of bizarre sexual fetish is unimaginable.
You know what? I'm 65. It never ends.
I used to go with my father to air displays, you know, and I would always basically get bored with the planes and go to the market where they were always selling this kind of old crap.
Yeah.
And honestly, these old men, you know, they would sell those shells for a few pennies, nickels and dimes. If they had known that they were selling cutting edge, I would say cutting edge, that's an unfortunate term, but, you know, like state-of-the-art sex toys.
What are you saying that they have to sign a document saying we have no intention? maybe like they do with guns in America, they say we're not going to use it for any, we have no criminal record.
This is why when they wear those, because that's a bit of that S&M kind of club, and they wear those bullet belts like the, you know, the Mexican style ones you're going to go with. What I got here. I just cannot believe
it's a very unusual fetish anyway. And
so is there a possibility that we could just high-tech the shell a little bit, and if any more pensioners are going to insert them anally, they would at least get a blood test? that would make some kind of sense, wouldn't it?
I think the serious message we should be saying right now is for pensioners to please do check your bottoms and see what you've got up there, because it could be dangerous. And the A&E's closed right now. So
yes, I think
remember, the government said play safe.
Pad yourself with cotton wool beforehand, certainly. Oh, my goodness. Well, that's it, folks. We've reached the end of another Headliners. That is all we have time for. Thank you very much to my panel, Carrie Marky Marks and Lewis Shapeshift Schaefer. That's anti-Semitic, isn't it? I believe it is. I think that's
it has got undertones,
I have been Simon Evans. I withdraw, and I have nothing to do with what was written there. Join us tomorrow, Stephen Allen. He's a lefty, but he's all right. He is hosting with Big Nick Dixon.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by 2 of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview channel 236.
And YouView channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, Talking Pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. There's never been a more interesting but also critical time in British politics, and I can't wait to bring you the biggest stories of the day with the best factual accuracy and also a few of my own opinions thrown in. We'll engage in passionate but always polite debate with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12 on TV, on radio and online.
Good evening. Well, the nurses are on strike again. They want an awful lot of money, 19%. But I'm asking in response, is Rishi being reasonable with what the government is offering? Because I'm not sure that they are. I'll give you my response to my judgment yesterday that says the Rwanda deal is legal. Let's find out. I'll give you my view as to whether it's actually ever going to happen. Joining me on Talking Pints, Katie Waisel. She was a star on X Factor and now runs a charity for those that are left high and dry by reality television, and there are just too many of them. All of that, those big debates in just a moment. First, let's get the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Nigel, thank you, and good evening to you. The top story tonight, ambulance workers and paramedics are preparing to go on strike tomorrow after last-minute talks between the government and unions this afternoon failed to address the issue of pay. The Health Secretary met union representatives, but pay discussions were off the table. Instead, the government was seeking reassurances over strike cover and patient safety. At least 5 ambulance trusts have declared critical incidents as they face unprecedented pressure ahead of the walkout. And around 600 members of the Army, Navy and RAF have been drafted in to help during the walkouts. Members of the armed forces have been taking part in 2 days of specialist training at Wellington Barracks in London, where they're being trained to drive ambulance vehicles. The workers said they were honoured to cover for ambulance workers despite having to sacrifice time off. And thousands of nurses in England, Northern Ireland and Wales have been walking out for the second time in under a week. The Royal College of Nursing has warned their action could go on for 6 months unless an agreement is reached. They're calling for a 5% above inflation pay rise, but the government says the demands are unaffordable. The Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, says the government has instead prioritised the entire NHS.
On pay, we have an independent process and we have accepted that in full, and of course that comes on top of the extra prioritisation of the NHS last year. But we also, alongside that, need to focus on patients. We need to focus on those pandemic waiting lists, get those waiting lists down. That's why we've invested the extra 6.6 billion over the next 2 years. So we prioritised the NHS and social care in the autumn statement at a time of difficulty for the economy, because we recognise we need to get those things down.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister has backed the findings of the independent pay review body as he faced questions over NHS strikes. Appearing before a super committee of MPs, Rishi Sunak defended the government's position and refusal to increase its offer to nurses and paramedics. He also said the best way to help the country was not to increase wages, but to bring down inflation.
I've acknowledged that it is difficult. It's difficult for everybody because inflation is where it is, and the best way to help them and to help everyone else in the country is for us to get a grip and reduce inflation as quickly as possible, and we need to make sure that the decisions that we make can bring about that outcome. Because if we get it wrong and we're still dealing with high inflation in a year's time, that's not going to help anybody. I don't want to see that. I want to see things get back to normal, and that's why having an independent pay process is an important part of us making those decisions.
Rishi Sunak. Now, Scotland Yard is investigating an allegation of racial abuse after the Conservative MP Bob Stewart told an activist to go back to Bahrain. The comments were made during a confrontation in the street last week. The MP for Beckenham has apologised but denies that his intention was to be racist. The Met Police says the case was opened following a complaint from Saeed Ahmed Al-Wadai. 12 people have been charged with burglary after 5 dogs were stolen from a kennelling centre that breeds animals for research. Cambridgeshire Police says officers responded to reports of a burglary at MBR Acres in Witton on early Sunday morning, then again on Monday afternoon. 12 people aged between 20 and 52 years old are due to appear at Cambridge Magistrates Court today. The dogs have yet to be recovered. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. You're with GB News, where now it's time for Farage.